I've talked a little bit about the environment. I've talked a little bit about job creation, and I want to sort of wrap up in speaking about the need for government reform. As a county commissioner in Bucks County, I spent a lot of my time thinking about how to make the government more efficient for people, more accessible, more transparent, to work better for the people it really is designed to serve, which is you, the taxpayer, the resident of this area. I wrote a policy that is still in effect today that required competition in the selection of and the engagement of professional services. There was some concern in the early 1990s that governments, municipal governments and county governments, were letting contracts for professional services without competition. And so my thought was, if we created a policy that engendered competition, that in fact required competition in the selection of professional services, that the number of individuals interested in providing that service to the government would increase, and the cost ultimately through the competition would decrease, and the beneficiary would be the taxpayer of Bucks County. And so I wrote the policy personally. We had it implemented on the county level. I think it was the very first contract that was led under this new policy, saved, I'm going to say close to $100,000 in one contract, because we had more people interested in bidding on that service and providing a proposal to perform that service. And so I'm not sure how much has been saved over the 12 to 15 years since I put that policy into place. But that's an example of how Democrats and Republicans working together, taking a look at a problem, can create a solution, which, as I said earlier, is not a Democrat and a Republican, but just good sense, an American solution to save people money. That's the perspective, again, that I take to the United States Congress. When I arrived in the United States Congress, I wanted to sponsor bills and co-sponsor bills that are designed to make the federal government more accessible, make the representatives more accountable to the people that they represent. I have held over 50 town hall meetings around the communities of Bucks County to get out and talk to the constituents that I represent, to listen to you, to better understand your needs, what your thoughts are, what your concerns are, to listen to your questions, because listening to you and engaging in that dialogue, I think that I can be a better representative for you and better understand where you want your federal government to be. And so I've co-sponsored legislation that would eliminate the congressional pension, limit the terms that a member of Congress would serve, and will continue to adopt, sponsor, support, and co-sponsor bills that would bring those sorts of government reform ideas into effect. And I'm going to talk to you about one such bill. Then have time for a couple of questions, and then I have to jump in the car and head south in a little bit. The bill that I want to talk to you about is called No Budget, No Pay. And you may have read about it because both of our local daily newspapers in the 8th District, both the Bucks County Courier-Times and the Doylestown Intelligencer, have written about it and editorialized about it. The bill, No Budget, No Pay, does exactly what it sounds like it would do. In the event the federal government does not adopt a budget within the time frame when required by federal law, the members of Congress, of the House and the Senate, who are responsible for adopting a budget resolution each and every year, would not be paid. The deadlines in the Budget Control Act and the Federal Budget Act require a resolution to be adopted, and I think the date is in April, and that the budget be in place by the end of the fiscal year, which is September 30th. The new fiscal year for the federal government begins October 1st. Each year that I've been a member of the United States Congress, we adopt a budget resolution. We adopted one this year. We adopted one last year. And the budget resolutions, in my view, ought to be a plan, a framework of spending your hard-earned tax dollars in a way that is very efficient, that is respectful of the work that you put in sending those dollars as well to the United States Capitol, and is a framework, a design, and a plan in this country to actually get the federal government to have a balanced budget. And on that issue of government reform, I've also co-sponsored and supported and voted for a balanced budget amendment, because I think that the federal government has to have a plan to stop spending money that it doesn't have. That is something that I hear all the time when I'm out in the community talking to residents just like you. So I've supported the balanced budget amendment, but I've co-sponsored this bill, which is a bipartisan bill, which was introduced by a Democrat representative from Tennessee, and it's called No Budget, No Pay. Again, if you don't adopt a budget on time, you don't get paid. And if you adopt a budget ultimately past the deadline, you don't get paid retroactively. All right, that's something that I think is important, because each of you in your individual lives and your families, you have budgets. You grew up with a budget in your own family. You raised your children with a budget in mind. Even in your retirement, you have a budget. We all have to operate on a budget. If you have small businesses, if you operate small businesses, businesses have budgets. So families have budgets, businesses have budgets. The federal government has to operate on a budget. And it has not had a budget in place for the past 3 years. It's been over 3 years now since the United States Senate has passed a budget resolution. And this bill, No Budget, No Pay, is designed to make sure that the House, as we've adopted budget resolutions in the past, and the Senate, that has not had a budget resolution in over 3 years, understand that the first obligation of a member of the United States Congress is to put in place a spending plan, a budget, have the budget passed by both houses and followed by the administration and the Congress. So again, I just wanted to let you know some of the things that I'm working on in the United States Congress: protecting the environment, strengthening our economy, and instituting government reforms that will work for the American people to get Democrats and Republicans working together again. So I appreciate the chance to stop by the AARP and have this little discussion with you. I think I have time for a couple of questions, and then I'm going to head down the nation's capital.
I'd like to just thank you for being here. I drove an hour to get here. I was unable to be here last event. It was a $10,000 a head fundraiser in Key West with banking lobbyists, and I couldn't afford to give you time there, but at least I can get a minute here. I was kind of wondering what it takes for a constituent to get a full day or weekend of your time that way if they don't have $10,000 to buy it. What concessions were made at that event with those banking lobbyists, and how you feel you can effectively regulate the banking industry after being there, spending the weekend with them, and cutting those deals.
Okay. Well, I am here with my constituents. Do you live in the district?
Yes, Quakertown.
Quakertown. Okay, very good. I spend a lot of time working with my constituents, listening to their concerns, and working hard for you on the floor of the House of Representatives to make sure that your concerns are heard. And for 10 years as your county commissioner, I was proud to represent you. We had an effective and efficient county government that adopted a budget every year on time, that adopted a budget that balanced, that was effective and responsive to the people that I represented. And I was proud to have your confidence to go to the United States Congress. And now I'm in the United States Congress, and we're dealing with some very serious issues. We have a federal government that spends more than it brings in and needs to get to a balanced budget. And every day I wake up recognizing I have 6 children who count on me to get the country's fiscal house in order, 700,000 people, some are seniors, some are children, everywhere in between, who count on me to put the country's fiscal house in order. Every day that I wake up, I think about what can I do to get people back to work? What can I do to get the country's fiscal house in order? What can I do to get to a balanced budget? The only people that I represent are the 700,000 people who call Bucks County home and Northeast Philadelphia home and Eastern Montgomery County home. They're my constituents. They're the people I work for. And they're the people who made the decision to send me to the United States Congress to fight for them. And they'll make the decision about whether to send me back. So I look forward to engaging in this debate. I certainly appreciate you coming from Quakertown. I've spent a lot of time in Quakertown. I've had a lot of town hall meetings in Quakertown. We have extended our office hours into Quakertown, which is something new for that region of the county. We have regular office hours at the Quakertown Municipal Building, now at the Indian Valley Library in Telford, which is also in Upper Bucks County, in an effort to be more accessible and accountable to the people of Upper Bucks County. So I
can I
appreciate
hang
you
with you
being
for a
here.
weekend?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Any time. You know, I will meet with you any time that you want to sit down.
He'll be
As
late,
well
though.
as well as in here.
My name's Don here, I'm from Weathertown. I appreciate what you've done for the environment, but I feel right now we have another obligation we have to take care of. Our grandparents built bridges that we're still driving over.
Right.
And we have to take care of our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. We have to have an infrastructure that works. And even more so, most of us here are over 65. We don't ever have to worry about having a slip sign for a maximum amount of Medicare that we're going to get. My question is, with the Ryan budget being passed, there's a chance of 44 million people that will be ineligible for Medicare. Is the state going to have to raise taxes? Is the county going to have to raise taxes to take care of them? Or, and I'm not saying this flippantly, are they going to have to go without medical care when they're 65? If they outrun their allotment?
You're Don from Levittown.
Yes.
You've asked a couple of questions. First, infrastructure, critical issue. As a county commissioner, I invested county dollars, very careful about the way we invested those dollars to improve the road and bridge system, essentially the county bridge system in Bucks County, make sure that the bridges were safe, that the bridges were inspected by an engineer every 2 years, that those bridges that needed repairs were repaired. I agree with you wholeheartedly that in Pennsylvania, we have a lot of streams and a lot of rivers, more than most states. We have a lot of bridges, and those bridges must be safe, they must be inspected, and we have to update them. It is one of the core functions of county government, state government, and federal government to make certain that our transportation system is second to none. Not only because of the safety is critical and foremost, but also because it goes to commerce, our ability to get goods back and forth to market and to our tables. It goes to job creation. Businesses will want to come to a community that has a good and effective and 21st century transportation system. It goes to the good environment. If bridges are out and we're having to travel extra miles or sit in traffic in a car that's idling with gas, unfortunately, at $4 a gallon, and that's something that I think the current administration has not effectively dealt with. But from an environmental perspective, we need a good and effective transportation system. So I have supported efforts, both on the local level and in the nation's capital, to invest in our infrastructure. I have supported as well, not just roads and bridges, they're important. Public transportation also. I'm the co-chairman of the Passenger Rail Caucus in the United States Congress. And I opposed efforts by my party when they tried to separate public transportation from the Highway Trust Fund in terms of future investments. Because we need to invest in roads and bridges, but we also need to invest in airports and trains and other public transportation and buses. And so I've met with the SEPTA Board of Trustees. I've met with them here in Pennsylvania. I've met with them in Washington. I've met with transportation planners. and I've met with regular individuals such as yourselves to make certain that we have a transportation system that's second to none. So that's a good question. I spent a lot of time on transportation issues. As I said earlier, I grew up in this region. I remember what it was like when there were fewer cars on the roads. Don, I'm sure you remember. What section from Levittown?
Blue Ridge.
Blue Ridge. I lived in Indian Creek and Snowball Gate. So I lived right around the corner from it.
I know.
And we remember driving down Route 413 when there were fewer cars. And now it's under reconstruction right now. It's been a long time in coming, but even during the construction time frame, you get a sense for how much traffic is really on that road. So we have more vehicles, more miles being traveled, and so we need to make certain that transportation infrastructure is in place.